Okay. So we'll let those... Okay. 2 more people just came in, so give us a quick minute, people on the streaming side. But... Hi. Um, we're going to be doing a live 2D demonstration and tutorial. All of the programs that will be showcased are on the laboratory computers. If you want to show off, if you want to follow along, and then show off a little bit of animation at the end. We're going to be using Krita. That's already installed on these laboratory computers. And it's free, and it has a nice suite of animation features. So if you want to use it for, say, an animation jam coming up in like a month or 2, that's a great program to consider. So we'll let them get logged on. But has everyone found Krita who wants to follow along? Okay. I'll ramble a little bit about Krita while they get situated. But it starts out pretty standard as an animation tool. You can just like left click and you just get a really like basic brush. If you want to actually change your brushes, oh, I zoomed in. You'll get it's all of these little icons here on your left side of the screen, and that's going to be changing which ones what your brush actually is. The first 2 are just your erasers. There's really fat eraser and there's really thin eraser if you want to for more precise control. And the very last one that looks like that's called basic one with this little icon. Just the basic one. Just create. We're just gonna be using a basic ball bounce today. Though we are also gonna be doing a little bit suspicious Among Us because it's a little more interesting than just a ball bounce. And the brush that I'm just going to be using is this basic one that has the same icon. Looks like this. And again, you can follow along on the laboratory computers. The laboratory computer. Yeah, I know. Can you tell I rehearsed this? So to actually activate the Krita's animation tools, you have to set up the window workspace. So it's way up here in the top corner, and it's just workspace. And when you hover over it, there will be all these different options. And obviously, you want to click animation. So again, for me on this side, it's all the way up here, and you want to hover over workspace and click on animation. And once you click on that button, it'll actually activate all of your animation stuff. But you may have noticed all your color tools disappeared. Oh no. You can activate that by going on another very similar setting. Where is it? Okay. So it's this small button, which is right next to what you just clicked, which is Windows. And you'll all go down to Dockers and then Brush Presets. So that way, you can get your eraser and your regular pencil tool stuff.
And also, another useful thing I would go ahead and do is also go ahead and click on onion skins.
Yes.
Onion skins.
No, I'm gonna do that after that. Yes, that's later.
Is there a way to change brush size?
I really want to say Krita has the does Krita have the
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's up?
Does Krita have the B control where you can?
I'm trying to do everything visually because
Yeah.
if I tell them to use
No, that's fair.
oh, okay.
Some programs have a really handy dandy tool where you can either control B or press B, and you can just drag and it'll expand and close.
Oh yeah, I did with Paint Tool Psi. But I think being able to point at it is probably better.
No, that's fair.
Okay.
I can't remember if I had it because I almost never use it except forget that it exists.
Okay, well that was a great thing to say at our Krita demo.
Well, I'm just saying I mostly go up and I click the thing when I'm using brush settings.
Okay, that's fair.
Like that. Because it's right there in front of my face.
Okay. And you can get all your cool colorful brushes, but we'll just be using the top 4. First one is your eraser, and your last one is your really generic pen tool. So I'm just going to run through really quickly what the tools are. We're going to be animating on just one layer, so to make things more simple. Here at the bottom is your animation timeline, and each of these little boxes is a frame that will be displayed. First you draw your part 1, and then your next one. Oh, right. So you may have noticed if I swap frames, the frame hasn't actually changed. You'll need to make at least one thing called a blank frame by right-clicking on your first available frame and clicking Create Blank Frame. And that will actually get you, then you can actually start animating for real. And then it automatically copies it as far into the future as it possibly can. Once you get into your actual, when you want to get to your next pose, like say for the next frame, I wanted the ball to move a little bit more. I can either click eraser and like manually erase it, or you can just go down here and press the delete key, and that'll also automatically erase everything. And now it moves left and right. Yay! Great. Oh, yeah. So we'll say this drawing, and then it'll go a little bit forward. And so over on the left side over here, you'll see these are your play buttons. It looks like, a normal like YouTube play button. You'll notice it keeps going. That little thing just keeps on going for all of eternity. You can change where your start and stop down here, which is right above your play button. And those are just what frames you want to start. So if I want to like stop on frame 2, so this time it'll start looping back and forth, which is pretty janky, of course, but. So I'm going to set it to 24 because that's 1 second of animation, because we're at 24 frames per second, which, speaking of, you can change your frame rate, which is right below the play button. And so you probably already know what frame rate is if you're like a fan of animation or played video games or something. So it will show 24 frames in 1 second. So if I want to make a 1 second animation, I would make my first pose at 0 and my last one at frame 24, and in the middle is 12. And then set that to usually some kind of factor of 2. So if I want to half this animation, I'll do factor of a frame rate 12, which is half of 24. Or if I want to speed it up by 2, I do 48 because that's 2 24s. I'm going to keep it at just standard 24 frames per second. So that way everything is nice and standardized.
I wasn't watching how to add the frames.
You want to add the frames, you'll need to right-click on... You can right-click on any of them, really, but I just recommend doing the first 0 one. And you'll want to click on...
Where's the undo button? I think it got rid of my first frame.
By first frame, you should be able to press either Control-Z to undo, or you can press the delete key, and that will just erase everything. Does your first frame, when you click off of it, does it have this blue border around your frame?
It's like filled in.
It's filled in. Oh, okay. So like this?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that just means it has a drawing inside of it. You can...
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, you can either just press the delete key, and that will erase everything.
No, I want to keep that frame.
Oh, okay.
I spent like minutes drawing.
You spent minutes drawing it.
Yeah. Because I have a mouse.
Yeah. So for our actual animation, there's one more thing that we're going to enable, and that's called onion skins. And this is something that is pretty crucial and is a feature of most animation tools, where it will show you your previous frame and your next frame, so that way you can plan which endpoint you are in. So like if I put my first frame as like this is my little like ball on the left, and then all the way on the left, and then all the way on the right, I want to move my ball over here. And it's like, well, where should I put my ball here? I have to constantly jump in between each one, and that's a little bit lame. So it looks like an onion because it's called onion skin. It's this button right here in sort of the bottom left part of like your toolbox. Oh, it opened on the other stream. And this will let you enable. Well, this will let you set how many frames ahead or behind you actually see. This one, by default, it sets to 2, and you can just click these numbers at the top. So if I don't want to see any behind, I want all these to be gray, or if I only want to see 1 behind, I just click -1. And of course, if you want to see in the future, you click one of these buttons. I can see up to 5 frames in the future. For simplicity's sake, I'm going to disable the second one and just keep it 1 frame in the past and 1 frame in the future. And then at these bottom ones, they let you determine which color those are. So every frame that I see that's in the past is going to be red, and all the frames that are in the future are going to be green. There's actually one small bit right here, which looks like a light bulb. It's right next to your layer name. That lets you actually enable or disable your onion skin. So if I click that, now I can see both the past and the future from whichever one, and that helps you really figure out which what you should be drawing. So of course in the red is your first frame, and then green, that third, that future frame. I can go, oh, if I want this to be in the exact middle, I press 2. That's like great. And then if I go one in the future, I can see where I drew that second one. Or if I go in the past to that first one, I can see that's 2. And that can really help you figure out where you want things to be in your animation. But the thing is, you really don't want to make your frames exactly right next to each other. Like, because again, your frame rate is 24, so it's going to show those 3 frames, and then it's just going to keep going into this 24th frame. So it's going to be less than like a second. And that just... usually what we do is what's called like animating on 2s or animating on 4s are the 2 terms that we typically use. And usually that means you're copying and pasting, like duplicating those frames, so that way instead of just jumping immediately, it holds on that same frame. So obviously I don't want to like erase and redraw my own animation. And Krita has this feature called hold frames, which is basically the same thing. So if you right click on whatever frame you want to hold on, and you can just quote unquote, you can click on insert hold frame. And so now that first frame is held for 2 seconds, and then these 2 are still just not 1 second, it's 1 frame. So it looks ever so slightly smoother, not like crazy because they're not all on 2. So this is what's known as animating on 2s, where you have 2 duplicates of each frame. So yeah, so if I, hold frame, insert frame, hold frame, insert frame. And you can insert like as many as you want. You don't have to put 2, but usually it's some kind of power of 2. So usually if it's like you want to hold it for 2 frames, or hold it for 4 frames, or for like 8 frames, you don't want to do it like 3 or 5. That's like a little bit weird. Some kind of even number is usually what we choose. So if you play, it looks a little bit better. Oh, okay. So this might be a minor issue where it's like this start and end will sometimes just randomly swap from 0 to something in the future. So if your animation is suddenly starting from a weird point, you'll want to reset it to 0. And so now this looks a little bit more natural instead of just like instantly to the number 3. And then if I want, I could do quote unquote animating on 4s, which is just I hold it for 4 frames. So instead, I can right click and hold, oh my goodness, okay. Hold frames and like insert like multiple. And that's if you want to do it for more. So this one I'm doing 2, so that way it ends up being 1, 2, 3, 4 held frames. And of course, it's just copying and pasting that same frame that you already drew, the drawing. So now it looks so now it starts getting a little bit like choppier, but now it's actually more animated and doesn't just instantly go to 3. And that's what's important about choosing how many frames you want to hold on, and this is like animating on 4s.
I can't log in.
You can't log in?
At least I don't know how to.
What is your email? Remove activation.
You got any questions?
Now I enter your password. What's my password?
I don't log into my page.
Oh, okay. That was for something.
Oh, it's okay. No, trust me, the laboratory, it's even worse in the computer science lab. So this is where you probably want to, this is more of a personal preference of how you want your animation to look. If you want to be like quote unquote animating on 4s, that's what this is, because 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the next frame 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it keeps going. So I think a good first practice is trying to get this ball to get from one end of the screen to the final edge of the screen within those 24 frames, aka within 1 second. So I'll be around to help either set that up or to help like figure out what the timing or pacing is. And we'll do that for, let's say, 15 minutes or so. So we'll go 15 minutes just getting the ball sorted, and then we'll do a little more complicated with like Among Us. So just try and get the ball.
Already started on a complicated.
Oh no! Yeah, that's what I'm doing, the same thing. It's mostly, right now it's just can everyone use Krita and know what the tools are and how to pace it correctly. And then we'll start doing our little bit, like a mini animation jam, kind of.